Welcome to Daily Variety, your daily dose of news and analysis for entertainment industry insiders. It's Thursday, December 11th, 2025. I'm your host, Cynthia Littleton. I am co-editor-in-chief of Variety alongside Ramin Satuda. I'm in LA, he's in New York, and Variety has reporters around the world covering the business of entertainment. On today's episode, we'll hear from Variety's Peter DeBruge and Matt Donnelly on this year's Sundance lineup. They'll talk about what's in store for the festival's last outing in Park City, which takes place next month. And Jennifer Maz gives us a preview of the Game Awards, which will be held tonight in downtown LA. Yes, it is, in fact, the Oscars for video games. But before we get to that, here are a few headlines just in this morning that you need to know. Actually, there's just one big story that people are talking about today, and it doesn't involve Netflix or Warner Brothers or HBO or Paramount. The Mouse House is really mad at Google. Disney is investing $1 billion in OpenAI, and it's taking the first legal steps to challenge Google for what Disney calls, quote, copyright infringement on a massive scale, end quote, for using AI models and services to, quote, commercially exploit and distribute, end quote, infringing images and videos. Disney's deal with OpenAI will make a number of its heavy hitter characters available for use in OpenAI's Sora short-form AI video model. The list ranges from Mickey and Minnie to Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader to Lilo and Stitch. This important story and so much more can be found on Variety.com right now. And now it's time for conversations with Variety journalists about news and trends in show business. Peter DeBruge, Variety's chief film critic, and Matt Donnelly, senior entertainment writer, join me to talk about the Sundance Film Festival, which released its lineup on Wednesday. Matt and Peter break down the significance of this year's gathering, which will be a milestone event. Peter and Matt have covered Sundance for many years, so they're the perfect people to put this transitional moment into perspective. Peter DeBruge and Matt Donnelly, let's talk Sundance. Obviously, the industry is gearing up for what will certainly be an emotional Sundance, probably a nostalgic Sundance, as the festival that defined the business of indie film some 40-ish years ago is having its last installment in Park City, planning to move to Boulder, Colorado in 2027. So what stands out to you as significant about this year's lineup?
It's really a discovery festival that's really about spotlighting new talent, first-time directors, people that they've been developing or shadowing over the years as they come through the labs or show short films. And so I trust the programmers there, but you read these log lines and sometimes it just sounds like homework or punishment. I mean, it's some really serious sounding stuff. And so it's not always the most exciting the morning of, but I usually feel gratified after seeing the movies there on the ground in Park City.
Any names that you've been watching that you're excited about?
Sure. This dovetails with our research that we do for our 10 directors to watch list. 3 of the filmmakers we have on that list will be bringing the movies Run Amok, Josephine, and If I Go, Will They Miss Me? Terrific movies among a handful of others that I never confess what I've seen, but if they don't make the list, I can assure you that there's other treasures there. Catherine Yan, who directed Dead Pigs, and the Birds of Prey movie is coming with a very starry comedy called The Gallerist. That's the one with Natalie Portman and Jenna Ortega. We've got new films from the likes of Greg Araki and David Wayne, who will also be bringing anniversary screenings of earlier movies.
Sundance is such an incredible place for pipeline into mainstream Hollywood. So look at someone like Olivia Wilde. I think that last time we saw her in the director's chair, Don't Worry, Darling became a phenomenon, I think for reasons maybe she wouldn't have preferred. And now she's back with some new work, one of which is she's the star of the Greg Araki film with Cooper Hoffman. She's also directing a film called The Invite, which is written by one of my favorites in Hollywood, Will McCormick and Rashida Jones, who did a phenomenal movie called Celeste and Jesse Forever. And this is a modern telling of a Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf kind of thing. Dinner Parties from Hell is my favorite genre of movie, so I'm very excited.
Sundance really walks the walk and doesn't just talk the talk when it comes to representation. You look at their lineup this year and it's 48% of the directors are female or identify as female. In the competition alone, which is 10 films, 7 of them have a female director, maybe a co-director, but and that's true in both the dramatic US and world categories. And, this is something where a lot of festivals around the world have been talking about this 50-50 parity. Sundance got there more than a decade ago, and they've really been sticking to it.
I think that goes to show what you can do with intention. And of course, a big component of Sundance is the buying and selling. It has historically been a great launching pad for many projects. It's been a very vibrant market in the past. We know that the market components of film festivals of all sizes and locales have had some struggles in recent years. Matt, as we go into 2026 Sundance, what is your gut at this point about the marketplace? You think you'll see a robust return to the kind of 2 a.m. closing that hustle and flow deal at 2 a.m. for big dollars, or do you think it'll be a more modest affair this time, as it has been in recent years?
I think we always pray for festival fever, but unfortunately, Cynthia, the way that this has been trending, even over the past 3 years, has caused a lot of alarm. I think just into the overall indie film ecosystem, especially financially, because the length of time from premiere screenings, which, as you mentioned earlier, Sundance is known for smacking the dust off of people after a long holiday and galvanizing entire audiences that come together on their feet for really compelling original stories that lead to all night bidding wars and just a bunch of sales agents sitting and drinking coffee until 5 a.m., hammering out the deal, finding out deal terms. But the way it's been trending is that the length of time it takes to get these deals papered is troublingly long. I would say the last three biggest films, two of which won Sundance's Grand Jury Prize, took almost a year from premiere to get an actual distribution deal, which effectively removes the teeth from like a huge buzz campaign. It used to be you'd have an amazing premiere from Sundance in January, and you'd wind up dancing into the awards cycle for the next year. But now I think there's so much time is lapsing in between, especially when it comes to theatrical releases for a lot of these indie films. And don't worry if you thought that there was a corner of the world that Warner Brothers Netflix isn't touching. I think that absolutely the sanctity of theatrical releases, especially for smaller budget films, will be very top of mind for everybody in Park City this year.
I would suspect that the disruption and the uncertainty of it all is going to impact buyers in recent years. Some of the titles that have sold for impressive dollars have then gone on to not really perform, certainly not perform at the box office. And that's got to be a factor.
Another interesting wrinkle in why there's so much gum in the works of these deals is efficiencies that were forced in screening process by the COVID-19 pandemics. When Sundance had to do a virtual edition, so many of these titles were launched on digital platforms. And it honestly made, even after as the pandemic sort of like ebbed, it made it not necessary for buyers and agents and other people, other industry types having to fly in person to Sundance to sit through these screenings, which is where a lot of the magic happens, is in the darkened theater together and everyone's like miserable in their sweaters and sharing tea and gum, and it's very sweet. But yeah, there's a much different experience when you're a prospective buyer sitting at home in your living room, or God forbid on your laptop at work, watching a movie, deciding whether or not you want to commit to putting on your slate and giving it to the world. So I think that Sundance has to make a decision as it moves forward, especially as they look ahead to changing locales from Salt Lake City to Boulder, if they want to just cease this online program entirely, to put all the urgency and all, again, that magic in the ring at the actual festival.
That's such a great point, Matt. We can all remember kind of the excitement of seeing a premiere at the Eccles and what that meant. Now going into the film festival, I will have seen half of my workload in advance by myself in a dark room in LA or on a link, and it's just not the same thing. And obviously buyers are kind of doing the same thing.
Do you think that with the move to Boulder, there will be any new elements to the marketplace of it all? Will they take steps to try to make sure that people have to be incentivized to be there?
Yeah, I think I have a very simple answer for this, but it's kind of one of those things that makes all the sense in the world. One of the biggest reasons that I think Sundance was looking for a new host city is because Park City was only willing to go so far in building actual cineplexes to house it. In Boulder, there will be so much more opportunity to see these films in proper theaters, not, like makeshift gym auditoriums with folding chairs or, decommissioned shopping markets that have like stadium style seats installed for 2 weeks. It's an actual accommodation in theaters where movies are meant to be seen, but also where more tickets can be sold. So I think in that way too, it won't be such a slog. It's sort of like it's easier to wear slippers than carpet the world. You know what I mean? So
I love a footwear analogy. I love it.
There we go.
It was really dealt a heavy blow by the pandemic, and then budgets and everything about the changing industry has it shrinking to the point that I think a lot of the people will be hightailing it out of town on Monday, Tuesday. And when we talked the other day to Eugene Hernandez, the director of the festival, he really wanted to stress that this year they're really trying to celebrate the final year in Park City by having some special screenings, some panels, and something that he teased that would be after the awards show on the final Friday, just to really have that presence there throughout the whole week. But he's up against budgets. He's up against habits that have been broken where people just aren't staying through the full 11 days like they used to.
Even for film industry professionals, that's a big commitment in this day and age. Well, no matter what, it's one of our biggest out-of-town editorial efforts of the year. We send a lot of people. We're going to cover every stitch of this. And of course, this year's will also be the first Sundance since the passing of Robert Redford in September. Just a landmark person in our industry. You both have covered Sundance many, many times. And while Redford's presence had eased up a little bit in recent years, I know his spirit is really looms large over it. How do you think people are going to be talking about him?
If you spend enough time on the ground in Park City, back in his heyday, there was always going to be a Redford sighting that you had that meant the world. I think my second time ever going in the dark ages, I was not adequately dressed. Like I thought for some reason that Utah would not be as, and Robert only ever wore a leather jacket and jeans. He never wore any Vortex or gloves or scarves or hats. And I was complaining outside of the press office, and he literally walked by and he said, "Suck it up." And I think it's my favorite Robert Redford memory of all time. Right. And also learn how to dress correctly. And also totally side note, I think one of the reasons I'm dead seriously a journalist is because I saw up close and personal as a child, and it really got its hooks in me. And I love him so much. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of sentimentality and a lot of really great Redford unmissable moments.
I think they'll be showing Redford's movie Downhill Racer, which is really the one that he pointed to as the inspiration for Sundance, for the need for an institution that would sort of support the kind of voices that allowed him to make that movie outside the system.
Thanks to both of you for walking us through what to expect and what's significant. Really appreciate your time on a really busy week for our business. And now we turn to the Game Awards. Jennifer Maas, Variety's senior business writer for TV and video games, flew out to LA to cover tonight's ceremony. The Game Awards have become an important date on the calendar for the gaming business, as Jennifer explains. Here's a clip of Game Awards founder and host Jeff Keighley kicking off last year's ceremony. And that's followed by my conversation with Jennifer.
Good evening, everybody! Welcome to the Game Awards, the biggest global celebration of video games out there. When we started TGA in 2014, we had no idea it would become as big as it is around the world. But I felt, like so many of you, that games and the people who make them and the fans deserve a moment like this. You watch this show because games are part of your identity. They mean something to you.
Jennifer Maas, you've been reporting since you stepped off the plane at LAX on Tuesday. How you holding up?
Doing okay. Hanging in there. Lots of coffee and lots of exciting announcements keeping me awake.
Well, you're in reporting warrior mode to cover the Game Awards, which I took in with you last year. It was very eye-opening. I genuinely learned a lot about the ethos and the spirit of the gaming community. Tell us what's new and different about the Game Awards this year.
So Jeff Keighley, who pioneered the awards, this is the 11th year that they're doing them. And it is the first year that it has what I'll call a traditional streaming partner. So previously, it was available on YouTube and you could stream it on Twitch, and it was available and mainly a digital first online viewership. It's also going to be online, but it's going to also have Prime Video. And so Amazon is also taking every opportunity. They're plugging Fallout Season 2. Great game tie-in right there. And so they're taking those chances to tie in their content as well. And then the Game Awards will have a plethora of other announcements across studios and publishers during the show.
So, as I learned last year, during the actual presentation of the awards, in between the awards, they announced significant news, release dates, world premieres. Would you say the gaming fan, they're watching because they know that there's going to be news tidbits flowing out throughout the night?
Absolutely. So one of the things that distinguishes the Game Awards from, say, the Emmys or the Oscars, well, it's considered like the pinnacle of its industry at the moment for awards. It is interspersed with trailers, with announcements, with release date content. Last year, the big finale wasn't just an award. They announced Game of the Year, but then after they announced Game of the Year, the studio behind The Last of Us revealed what their next game will be, and they had the first footage of that game. So that's something that's very specific to this award show, and also that makes it longer than others, but it keeps people tuned in because between those awards, they are going to find out about the next year's big things, right? So it like sets up the gaming industry for its next year while celebrating its previous year.
In addition to tonight's award ceremony, you've been busy since you got here taking meetings. This event galvanizes a lot of news and marketing activity in the gaming business, it seems like.
I have had meetings all week. I've gone to events all week, gotten to see a lot of things that will be seen in the room tonight early, which is always exciting. But yeah, everyone's in town. Everyone wants to meet. It's rare all the people in the gaming world are in LA together at the same time.
Okay, I was trying not to ask this, but I think I have to ask this. Jennifer, is this the Oscars of video game awards? Is it the prestigious one that people really care about?
Yes, absolutely. And that's not for lack of trying, like across game awards, but nothing else has really broken through in this way.
Is there a horse race aspect to the competitive awards? Do people in the industry really sit there and try to game out, okay, what's going to win Game of the Year? Is there like a movie and TV level intensity to awards in the gaming world?
Yes, very much so. And this year in particular, when the nominations came out, an indie developer called Sandfall has had the game swept nominations called Claire Obscure Expedition 33. It's a first time game from an indie studio, and that game is poised to win Game of the Year. And I would be very surprised if it does not. So there's definitely conversation surrounding that and what that means for the industry when an indie title can break through like that.
Well, Jenny, good luck covering the ceremony. You have a lot of headlines to launch. Thank you so much for working so hard and covering this really important sector with such gusto.
You're welcome.
As we close out today's episode, here's a few things we're watching for. A 5-part docuseries on women's sports debuts December 15th on Peacock. The Rise hails from Hello Sunshine. It consists of 5 feature-length documentaries on the WNBA, women of NASCAR, and other topics. Amazon Prime Video will launch The CEO Club on February 23rd. That docuseries will follow Serena Williams and other prominent women as they pursue business ventures. We love to hear from our listeners, so please send thoughts, gripes, and other feedback about Daily Variety to podcasts@variety.com. Before we go, congrats to Susanna Zepeda. She has joined Visualization Studio, the 3rd floor, as head of strategic partnerships. Zepeda has worked in programming, events, and brand partnerships for Warner Brothers Discovery, Disney, and NBC Universal. Thanks for listening. This episode was written and reported by me, Cynthia Littleton, with contributions from Peter DeBruge, Matt Donnelly, and Jennifer Maas. Stick, snakes, hick, picks. Please leave us a review at the podcast platform of your choice. And please tune in Monday for another episode of Daily Variety. And don't forget to tell us what you think at podcasts@variety.com. Thanks.